Let's look at the sentences from chapter 15. Practice and review. Number 1. Illae quinque feminae inter ea animalia mortem non timebant. Subject is really feminae, verb timebant. The women, this is nominative, plural, feminine. Use in the sentence, subject. What kind of women? The 5 women, or those 5 women. This gives you a clue, third person plural, imperfect. Active indicative, they did not fear. They did not fear what? They did not fear death. Inter ea animalia, among the animals. The ea comes from is, ea, id. In this case, it is accusative, plural, neuter, and it modifies the object of the preposition animalia. Notice the I stem because the word is animal, animalis, neuter, and the al, ar words are always I stem in the neuter gender. And if you're not familiar with that, if that doesn't make sense to you, ask or look it up. Either way, I'm happy to answer the question, but be sure you understand that. Number 2, duo ex filiis a porta per agros cum patre suo heri curebant et in aquam cecederunt. So, hopefully by reading this, you recognize from the structure you've got 2 verbs. Somebody they curebanted and they cecederunted. So let's treat them, let's set them off as 2 completely separate sentences and deal with them one at a time. The subject here is 2. 2 third person plural. The BA gives you a clue, imperfect. Active indicative, those 2. 2 who? 2 out of the sons. A porta, away from the gate. Per agros, through the fields. Cum patre suo, with his father, yesterday ran. So, break these up. Yeah, it's a long string of words. 2 of the sons, okay? This is your 2 out of the sons. A porta means away from the gate. Per agros equals through the fields. Cum patre suo means with their father. Cum, because there's 2 of them. There's suo patre. Heri just means yesterday. Curebant. So 2 of the sons ran from the gate through the fields with their father, and in aquam, into the water, cecederunt, they fell. This is the third person plural, present perfect, active indicative. And notice the use of the imperfect versus the subjunctive. The imperfect versus the present perfect. The imperfect, they were doing these things. Notice the description. They were running and they were going through the field and they were going away from the gate, and then boom, they fell into the water. Number 3. Primus rex divitias in mare iecit, nam magnam iram et vim turbi timuit. Again, 2 verbs, iecit and timuit. So there's some ieciting going on and some timuituing going on. Let's break these off into 2 separate sentences because, let's face it, otherwise it's just a big, long jumble of words. Let's break them up. The rex iecited. The first king, this is nominative, singular masculine. The first king, what did he do? He iecit, third person, singular. Oh my goodness gracious, iecit is not in the dictionary. If I go to iecit and look it up, it's not in there. What do? It comes from the verb iakio, iacere, ieki, iactum. And it is the third principal part here. And so what conjugation is this, incidentally? It is the third I-O. So the third singular, present perfect, active indicative. The first king, active indicative. The first king threw what? His riches, accusative, plural feminine. In mare, into the water. This is just a prepositional phrase. In plus the accusative means into. In with the ablative means in. Let me write that down because it's important. In plus the accusative equals into. In plus the ablative simply means in. So the first king threw riches into the sea. 4. What did he do? He feared. Third person singular, present, perfect, active, indicative. You might have better luck finding this in the dictionary because timeo, timere, at least you'll get that far. You'll get the tim, timui is the third principal part. 4, he feared the what? He feared the anger and the force of the crowd. He feared not just the anger, but the great anger. So the first king threw riches into the sea, for he feared the great anger and the force of the crowd. Number 4, Nemo eandem partem asiae unoano vincet. No one. Nemo. Nominative singular masculine. Nobody. Let's go to the end of the verb. Winko, winkere, winky, winktum. So where do you get this E from? We know it's third singular in active indicative. What tense? Where do you get? Well, first of all, you have to know winko, winkere, weedy, weedy, weaky, weaky, weaktum. You have to know what conjugation it is. It is a third conjugation. And where do you get the E in the third conjugation? You get it in the future tense. And again, as before, if that doesn't make sense to you, look it up, please. And if it still doesn't make sense to you, let me know. That's my job to help you know these things. So the king, or no one is your subject. No one will conquer the same part, the accusative singular feminine, the part, I said plural, the same part of Asia in 1 year. So I don't know what's going on here. Somebody's conquered Asia, but nobody's conquered to do it again, I think is the idea. Nobody will conquer the same part of Asia in 1 year. One conqueror is enough. No one will do the same thing, same part again, is the implication. That's my impression. I honestly don't know exactly what's going on. But grammatically, I can explain it to you. Uno anno is your ablative of time when. Admittedly, depending on your understanding of what's happening here, it could be time within which, within 1 year, perhaps. I couldn't argue against it grammatically. But nobody will conquer the same part of Asia in 1 year. Number 5, Romani quatuor ex eis urbibus prima via junxerunt. The Romani junxerunt. What does jungo jungere? Again, you look up junxerunt, you will not find junxerunt in the dictionary, but you will find something very close. You will get to jungo, jungere, junxi, junctum. So you will get close in the dictionary, IUN. So this is your third person, plural, present perfect, active indicative. The 4 Romans, they joined. The 4 Romans from the cities. This is neither this nor that. Remember, ille is that, hic is this. And here you have a form of is, ea, id, which is just kind of a weak form of this or that. It's a little stronger than the English the. So the 4 Romans from these cities joined on the first road. You know what? That's flat out wrong. That's flat out wrong. And the problem is quatuor. We don't know. I took quatuor to mean the 4 Romans. My goodness gracious. And the problem is you don't decline quatuor. But the Romans joined 4 of the cities. So this is your accusative, plural, for the cities, feminine. Well, there you go. I should edit this tape to make myself look smarter, but one of the pitfalls of not knowing the language or not being so familiar with the language is that, yeah, sometimes you misinterpret where this quatuor goes. And so it is not the 4 Romans, but as the Romans joined 4 of the cities by the first road. In other words, the very first road that ever existed in Rome connected 4 cities. and 4 of the cities were joined by the first road. The Appiavia, I presume, is what they're talking about. So, fascinating, interesting. Romani Quatuor, not the 4 Romans. Well, good. How are you supposed to know? Because just looking at it, it didn't make sense. I knew what I was saying, and I knew what I was saying wasn't making sense. And when I thought about it, I realized, oh goodness, Quatuor is the direct object. So, there you go. Number 6. Itaque milia librorum eius ab urbe transitalium missistis. Itaque, and so. Literally, that's what it means, and so. The verb missistis, second person, plural, present perfect, active, indicative. And what does it mean? Well, I don't know. I couldn't find missistis in the dictionary. You are 100% correct. What did you find? You found mitto, mittere, misi, misum. You found that in the dictionary. So, now is it coming back to you? Now are you hearing my words early on, encouraging you to memorize all 4 principal parts of the dictionary, of the Latin verb? And are you kicking yourself that you didn't? Because then you would have realized missisti, because you didn't know it, you only knew it as mitti. And so, you have sent thousands, accusative plural neuter, because mili is a noun. It's not an adjective. Thousands of books, partitive genitive, so it's genitive, plural masculine. The use in the sentence, partitive genitive. You sent millions, thousands of books, not just books, of his books, or her book. Imagine his and her towels in Rome. Eius et eius. Which one's his and which one's hers? How's that? You picture that? Here's my towels hanging on the bar. These are your his and hers towels. Eius. Eius. His and her towels from the city across Italy. So, I guess you had to be there for that joke. And so you sent thousands of books, his books, from the city across Italy. Number 7. Libertatem et ura harum urbium artibus belli conservavimus. So, libertatem I recognize as the direct object. It's accusative. It's the only place you get this em ending. Accusative, singular, feminine. Freedom. And what else? Ura. This is also the direct object. Accusative, plural, neuter. Harum urbium. I'm not, you know what? Notice I'm not translating the way I've encouraged you to translate, but because my familiarity, and hopefully your familiarity at this point, is allowing you to translate these on the fly, let's go with it. Freedom and laws. What kind of laws? Laws of these cities. And this is just your possessive genitive. Genitive, plural, feminine. Harum modifies it. And so the freedom and laws of these cities by the skills of war. Ablative, plural, skills is feminine, and this is your ablative of means. We saved, conservavimus, first person plural, present perfect. This I think you recognize. The V you're used to because it's the first conjugation. Active indicative. So we have saved the freedom and laws of those cities by the means, by the skills of war. Number 8. Di Graeci se inter homines cum virtute saepe non gerebant. That's true. The di non gerebant. The gods, this is your nominative, plural masculine. What kind of gods? The Greek gods. What did they do? Well, in this case, did they not do? Third person plural, gerebant, imperfect. Active indicative. They did not carry. What did they carry? Themselves. Accusative plural masculine, because it refers back to the subject, which is masculine. The Greek gods did not carry themselves inter homines, among humans, among mankind, cum virtute, which is the ablative of manner. And always is your ablative. So the Greek gods did not carry themselves among human beings always with virtue, always. Did I say always in there twice? The Greek gods did not always carry themselves with virtue among humans. Humankind. Number 9. Cicero milia Romanorum vi sententiarum suarum ducebat. So Cicero, he did something, he ducebated. And I know he did it in the past because the BA is a clear sign for the imperfect tense, third person singular, imperfect, active, indicative. Cicero led. What did he leave? Thousands. This is your accusative, plural, neuter. It is a noun. It is not an adjective. One can be an adjective, one dog, one book. Two can be an adjective, but thousand is a noun. He led thousands of Romans by means of, this is your ablative, singular, feminine, by means of the force of his opinions. Sententiarum is genitive, plural. By the force of his opinions, his thoughts, his opinions. I don't know what else to say. Cicero led thousands of Romans by the force of his thoughts. He was a very successful, persuasive speaker. Number 10, Sententiae Medici. That's the Medici in Florence, Italy. Same name, they get their name from the doctors. And of course, in Florence, you would see Medici and pronounce it like Medici. But in this case, we're not talking about the Medici family. Let me start again. Number 10. Sententiae Medici eum carum mihi numquam fecerunt. So the opinions made, the opinions of the doctor. This is nominative, singular, plural, feminine. This is third person, plural, present perfect, active indicative. And what verb does it come from? I don't know. You will not find fecerunt in the dictionary. You will, however, find facio, facere, faci, factum, and that means do or make. So the opinions of the doctor, genitive, singular, masculine, did not make, or never, numquam, never made him dear to me. Never, this means never. This is him, the accusative, singular, masculine. Carum is the adjective that modifies it, and me, he is just your dative, singular, well, masculine or feminine. The opinions of the doctor never made him dear to me. Number 11, the tyrant used to entrust his life to those three friends. No word for the. Tyrant is the subject. Used to entrust. We'll get the used to sense in the imperfect case. We'll analyze that in just a second. Life, his, we can use the reflexive because it goes back to the tyrant. The reflexive adjective that modifies life. And to those three friends, this is your entrust to somebody, is your indirect object, so dative, plural, masculine. Let's continue analyzing. We need the nominative, singular, masculine form of tyrant, used to entrust. I've already recognized the imperfect tense, third person singular, imperfect, active, indicative. His life is accusative, singular, and I'm going to use the word for life that is feminine. To those three friends, those friends, three friends, and no word for the. Two. So the tyrant, tyrannus. And let's used to entrust. Let's go ahead and I'll leave space to put that at the very end to make it more Latin. His vitam. And who's vitam? Suam vitam. Wait a minute. Tyrant is masculine. Why are you making suam feminine? Because suam, the nature of the word, the essence of the word suam refers you back to the subject, but grammatically it describes vitam. So the tyrant used to his life to those three friends, Ilis, Tribus, Amicis, to those three friends, used to entrust. What are we going to use for entrust? Mandare, is that the word for entrust? Entrust. The word for entrust is committo. Committo, committere. We've already identified the imperfect, commite, bat. Tyrannus, vitam suum, illis tribus amicis committebat. Number 12, the greedy man never has enough wealth. The, we don't need a word for the. Never is an adverb. Man is your subject, so it's going to be nominative, singular, masculine, because it's man. Greedy is going to modify it. Has is the third person singular, present, active, indicative. Enough wealth. This is an interesting one. And this is what's going to trip you up as speakers of English, because in English, it appears that enough modifies wealth. But in Latin, the phrase is enough of wealth. Because in Latin, the word wealth, the word enough, satis, is a noun, whereas in English, it's an adjective. And and so wealth is going to be your partitive genitive. And wealth, dwittii, genitive, singular, feminine. So the greedy man, and we're going to say avarus vir. The greedy man has, we'll put at the end, or never has, numquam habet, enough satis of wealth, dwittii. And I admit, this is peculiar to speakers of English. And I'm going to do something else. I'm just going to leave out the we're. We've used let's use the substantive use of the adjective. The avarus, satis dwittii, numquam habet. And you know what? I might be tempted to do something a little bit more Latin, just for fun. First and foremost, avarus vir, satis dwittii, numquam habet. Perfectly fine. Absolutely fine. Nothing wrong with that. But enough of, I think it might be nice. Give it a nice touch. Satis dwittii, avarus non habet. I just think that sounds kind of nice in Latin. Enough of wealth, a greedy man does not have. Oh, sorry, the word is never. Sorry. Known, the word is never. Numquam habet. Can I express a grammatical reason why I've tempted to put enough of wealth? No, I can't. Not at all. It just sounds a little more Latin. It sounds like a proverb. It sounds like a saying, something the Romans would say, and as a result, I chose to twist it around a little bit. Number 13, at that time, ablative of time when. So we don't need a word for that, at. We just need time in the ablative case. At that time, we saved. We saved, and we're going to use one word for that. Their mother, accusative, it's the direct object. With those 6 letters, we don't need a word for with, because this is your ablative of means. And the ablative of means uses no preposition. So at that time, ablative, singular, neuter. What's the word? Tempus, temporis, neuter. We saved, first person plural, Let's use the present perfect active indicative. The mother of their, but you cannot use the reflexive. The other sentence with the tyrant, I was able to use the reflexive, or with the doctor or somebody, I was able to use the reflexive because it referred back to the subject. There does not go back to the subject, so we have to use the form of is, ea, id, eorum. Mother, accusative, singular, feminine. Those 6 letters, ablative, plural, feminine. 6 is going to modify it. Those is going to modify it. And there you go. Illo tempore. At that time, I'm going to save the verb to the end. The mother, the matrem, not just any old mother, but their mother, with illis sex lateris. We saved con ser wa we moose. Illo tempore matrem eorum illis sex lateris. With those 6 letters, conservavimus. 14. Through their friends, they conquered the citizens of the 10 cities. Through their friends. I'm not sure it means through. I think this also is ablative of means. Ablative of means, because it conveys the same meaning as by means of their friends. Arguably, you could say it's some agency involved here, but given that we've just recently had the ablative of means, just odds, I'm going to go with Wheelock wants us to use the ablative of means here. We can get into a bigger discussion of what a true Roman would have, but for the sake of moving on, let's just say this is the ablative of means. Through their friends, and in this case, it is the reflexive there because it refers back to the subject. They conquered, all one word, the citizens of the 10 cities. Genitive, plural, feminine is the cities. Through their friends. Ablative, plural, masculine. They conquered, third person, plural. And just the simple present, perfect, active indicative of the 10. All right, the citizens. Oh, accusative, plural, masculine. By means of their friends. Amicis suis, I'm going to put they conquered at the end. The citizens, the cives, the citizens of the 10 cities. No, 10 you do need. Is that a word? I miscrossed out 10. Civis decem urbium. Conquered. When a witty wiki we carunt. Amici suis, cives, decem urbium, we carunt. They conquered. And you know what, I'd be tempted to say those men. I'd be tempted to, even though it doesn't say it, absolutely not. Grammatically it doesn't say it, so don't feel any compulsion to put it in there. I'm just saying from a little bit of sense of the Latin language, I think they might put isti, because I think this is a pejorative sense. They conquered. Those guys conquered. And so isti might be fitting here. I mean, it'd be hard to argue that necessarily from the sentence, but amici suis cives decem urbium vicerunt is perfectly fine. Sententiae antiquae. Number 1. Diu in ista nave fui, et propter tempestatem nubesque, semper mortem expectabam. How scary. For a long time, in ista nave, in that boat, I was. Fui is your first person singular, present perfect, active indicative. Wait, fui is not in the dictionary. No, it's not. Sum esse fui futurum. So, for a long time, I was in that boat. And on account of the storm, not just the storm and clouds, notice this enclitic, que connects the two. It's the same equivalent as bacon and eggs, or peanut butter and jelly. Tempestatem nubesque. It just means they go closely together. For a long time I was in that boat, and because of the storm and clouds, I was always expecting, looking out for death. Accusative, singular, mors mortis is masculine, I'm going to say. And expectabum, first person singular, imperfect, active indicative. So for a long time I was in that boat, and on account of the storm and clouds, I was always looking out for death. Awaiting death. Awaiting is fine. Number 2, septem horis adeam urbem venimus. Within 7 hours, or I think we would say in 7 hours, at that city we came, or we arrived, we came to that city. In 7 hours, within 7 hours, that's probably best. Within 7 hours we came to that city. Time within which, ablative of time within which. We often will use the time within which, and we don't have to say within. We will use the just in 7 hours too. So within 7 hours, or in 7 hours, we came to that city, or came to the city. Again, this eam here, which modifies urbem, it's not ille, which equals that, and it's not hic, which equals this. It is a form of isea id, which is a little bit stronger than, I'll put greater than, the. I mean, what do we have in English that's between the and that? I don't know. We just have to say the. So we came to the city. Number 3, Italia illis temporibus erat plena Graecarum artium, et multi Romani ipsi has artes collebant. Well, that's very interesting. We got 2 sentences here. Italy was full of Greek art. There you go. Full of Greek art. This is your genitive, plural, modifies art, which is feminine. In those days, at those times, illis temporis, ablative of time when. At those times, Italy at those times was full of Greek art. And many Romans, multi Romani, there's your subject, subject, well, they would cultivate, coleo, colere, colo, colere. They would, this is your imperfect, third person plural, imperfect active indicative. And many Romans themselves would cultivate these arts. So Italy in those days, in those times, was full of Greek art, and many Romans would cultivate, would gather these arts. Many Romans themselves. Number 4, inter bellum et pacem dubitabant. Between war, they hesitated between war and peace. Inter bellum et pacem dubitabant. They were wavering, they hesitated between war and peace. Which way is it going to go? I don't know. Number 5, eo tempore istum ex urbe ieciebam. That's a fun word to say. At that time, ablative of time when. And specifically, this is ablative, singular neuter. At that time, I threw out ieciebam. I was throwing him out. That's fine, because this is clearly imperfect. At that time, I was throwing him out of the city. Number 6, dicebat quisque miser, civis Romanus sum. Miser is your nominative, singular masculine, used substantively. Each poor wretch, each miserable man would say, I am a Roman citizen. I might be miserable, I might be miser, but I am a Roman citizen. Number 7, mea puella passerem suum amabat, et passer ad eam solem semper pipiebat, nexe ex gremio moebat. That's a great poem. This is a very famous poem in Romans about a bird. My girlfriend, Mea Puella. She used to love her bird. Accusative singular. I think bird is masculine. I'm going to go with that for now. Oh, it has to be masculine because su'um matches it. Notice that su'um agrees with the bird, but it refers back to, it's the reflexive, and so it's her. Her bird. My girlfriend used to love her bird. And the bird always, pipiyebat, it's a great word, used to peep. Would peep ad eam solam, to her alone. That's a great word, isn't it? Pipiyebat, that means peep. And that's exactly peep, chirp, but it's a very descriptive word of the sound. And not, and it would not move itself ex gremio, from her lap. My girlfriend used to, because this girlfriend had this pet bird that she loved so much. My girlfriend used to love her bird. And the bird always would, and the bird would peep to her alone and would not move from her lap. Mea puella passerim suum amabat, et passer adeam solam semper pipiabat, nexe ex gremio moebat. That's good stuff. Number 8. These sentences are getting longer. Filii mei fratra meum diligebant. Me vitabant. Me patrem acerbum appellabant. Et meam mortem expectabant. Nunc autem mores meos mutavi. Et duos filios ad me cras traham. So let's break it up. Filii mei, my sons. They esteemed, they used to love my brother. Notice the use of the imperfect. So my sons used to love my brother, accusative, singular, masculine. And my son, and they used to, and they would avoid me. There's no and. We would throw in an and in English. But notice they loved the diligebant. They loved my brother. But they avoided me. Me, their bitter father. They called me their bitter father. And that's great. They called me a bitter father, and they awaited my death. Now, however, my customs, my habits, I have changed. Notice the diligebant, they used to, versus mutawi, first person, singular, present perfect. Active indicative. I have changed my ways, my habits, and I will draw. My two sons, ad me, to me, tomorrow. Cross equal. I don't need to write cross. It's already there. It's the adverb that means tomorrow. What is procrastination? Well, I don't know. That's something for tomorrow. If we are pro-choice, pro-life, that means we're for something. Well, pro-cross, yeah, that's for tomorrow. So procrastination is for tomorrow. So my sons used to love my brother. They avoided me. They called me a bitter father. And they awaited my death. Now, however, I have changed my habits. And I will draw my two sons to me tomorrow. Number 9. Dionysius Tyrannus, quoniam tonsori caput committere timebant, filias suas barbam, et capillum tondere docuit, itaque virginis tondebant barbam, et capillum patris. Dionysius needs a haircut. Dionysius the tyrant. Here's your subject. Dionysius, tyrant. Since this stuff was happening, since he was afraid, it's the third singular imperfect active indicative. Since he was afraid to entrust his head to the shears. This is your dative, D-A-T, dative, singular, tonsor, masculine, to the clippers. Dionysius the tyrant, since he was afraid to entrust his head to the shears, he learned he taught, doquit, third singular, present perfect, active indicative, present perfect, active indicative. He taught his daughters to cut, tondere, his beard and his hair. So, this is confusing. The philios is the object of Dokuit, and barbam et campilam is the object of tondere. So, he taught... I thought I had a highlighter. So he taught his daughters, and yet the copula, but all of this, there it is. All of these go together too. Notice how it's all embedded in there. He taught his daughters, but the verb tondere barbam et capellum, all that phrase is in between the filias suas Dokuit. Very, very Latin. And so the young ladies would cut. I like the use of the imperfect here. The would cut, third singular, third plural, imperfect, active indicative. And so his daughters would cut his beard, would cut the beard and hair of the father. Then he's just the tyrant, since he was afraid to entrust his hair to the shears, his head to the shears. I mean, you're a tyrant. You're not going to let anybody. Remember, they didn't have clippers like you have that don't do a lot of damage. You know, I will buzz your neck to death. No, they had to use a real knife. And as the tyrant, he was afraid to entrust himself to anybody with a knife, and so he would have his daughters do it. So that's it. Let me know if you have questions.